It's a beautiful Tuesday morning here in Lagos, and I'm delighted to have you join us on this morning. I am Nifemi Oguntoye, standing in for Yomi Folarin, fondly called Uncle Yuri, on this show. We're counting down to the much talked about 2019 general elections. Preparations, no doubt, are in top gear. Politicians are getting ready. The big question is, are electorate also doing their own assignment to identify who the best candidate would be, as we count down 59 days to the general election to be held on the 16th of February. Of course, we'll be electing the president and members of the National Assembly. This exercise is the sixth quadrennial elections since the end of military rule in 1999, and there are quite a number of matters arising from legislation to the preparation of the umpire INEC, and of course the preparation of you and I as we go to the poll to decide who leads us in the coming years. Well, I'm joined now by a lawyer and political affairs analyst as we discuss some of these issues this morning. Ahmed Akombi, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's begin. In August 2018, Independent National Electoral Commission registered 23 new political parties, and that brought the number of the total, the total political parties we have to 91. As a matter of fact, INEC said about 144 applications came in. So as we speak right now, there are 73 candidates who are jostling for Mr. President's office, and you begin to wonder how that number skyrocketed from 11 in 2015. What would you say really is responsible for this?
Well, the simple answer is that people are becoming more politically aware, and people are becoming more agitated about events and happenings in the country. And I must say that it's a good thing for people to show interest in the political process, because what most of us do is to remain as bystanders and we keep criticizing government. I tell people that it's a different, those in government tell us that once they go into government, it's a different ballgame entirely from those that are outsiders. So basically it shows that, like I said, the awareness is growing by the day, and it also shows, it's also a message for those in government to be on their toes. It's a message for them to do the proper thing, it's a message for them to do the right thing.
But do you think that the people
are eyeing their seats
in government are perturbed? Because, of course, I understand that the more the merrier, but how weighty are these numbers? Take, for instance, in the United States, where we borrowed the presidential election, the presidential system of government from. They have two main political parties that have dominated that system. That doesn't mean that there are no other political parties, but the other parties, the Constitution, Green, there's the Libertarian Party. They do not usually field candidates for presidential election. In 2016, there were just two others, apart from the Republican and Democratic Party. Most of them gone for local offices in specific states. So you see a party that was just registered in August, fielding presidential candidate in February of the next year.
Yes.
Wouldn't you consider that being over-ambitious?
No, it's not. It's not. It's best to start from somewhere.
Okay.
And if you feel so strongly about a particular position, and you feel that the best way that you can contest that position, or that you can make your views known, is to contest, why not?
So you're optimistic that a new party can win elections in 2019?
Nothing is impossible. When the president won the elections in 2015, very few people believed that he could defeat an incumbent.
Well, the APC wasn't a new party. As a matter of fact, it was a coalition of existing parties at that time.
Like you said, it was a coalition. A number of interests came together. The president had tried his shots on 3 occasions before that. And sincerely, it had never happened in Nigeria that an incumbent could be defeated. So it's good that we have new candidates. The Showers is coming out.
So we have 73 candidates,
yes.
and I can't but imagine how long the ballot paper is going to appear this coming election year. But you talked about coalition in 2015. There are people who are saying that the reasonable thing for all of these endless numbers of presidential candidates to do is to come together and form a coalition.
Well,
perhaps we'll have a thought force like the former president predicted.
Well, the Constitution recognizes freedom of association, and our courts have also made pronouncements to the effect that we are free to register political parties once we're able to comply with the requirements and the processes and the procedures, really. Nigeria is a very diverse country, diverse religions, diverse tribes, diverse tongues. And people might feel strongly that I'll do better doing it alone than doing it within a coalition, and they should be allowed to do whatever they want to do.
Do you foresee that happening?
I beg your pardon?
Do you foresee a coalition amongst the other candidates?
I don't. I really, in this coming dispensation, I don't foresee it.
Okay. All right, so let's look at the timeline here. In 1979, there were 5 presidential candidates.
Yes.
In 1983, there were 6. In 2003, the number came up to 20. In 2007, we had 23 presidential candidates. In 2011, there were 19. In 2015, the figure dropped to 11. And fast forward to 2019, we have 73 candidates. I'm beginning to wonder that I hope there are not other political bonuses or scores or, or benefits in running for election. You can't tell me that indeed 73 people believe that they can become president.
Whatever one wants to do in life, it starts with that belief, the faith, that this is what I want to do, this is where I want to be. Not everybody might be comfortable with the major parties, the PDP and the APC. Some might feel that they don't want to come together and be with strange bedfellows. And if the law permits it, why not?
It's all right.
Yes.
Well, so some will not just agree with you totally. They believe this is just an academic exercise.
It's a democracy. We're all entitled to our views.
We had a vice presidential election recently, and some would say, well, it was just a debate between 2 candidates.
For some it might not be.
Did you see the debate?
Yeah, I saw it. I watched it.
What did you think of the other 3 parties?
For me, it was gladdening for me that at least I saw 2 women who came out and who desire to be vice presidential candidates.
Beyond the desire,
it was gladdening for me.
Did they sound prepared as regards touching the issues that were raised?
Well, if I were to score on the scale of it, maybe they didn't do too well. Perhaps they had underestimated the debate or the task at hand, but it's better than never.
All right, let's talk about the Electoral Act. For the 4th time, Mr. President withdrew assent to that particular document.
Yes.
And perhaps the biggest changes there are electronic, they want a full biometric, what do they call it now?
Transmission.
Accreditation process.
Yes.
They also want an electronic transmission of results right from the polling centers. But Mr. President is saying that it's just too close to call. It's like changing the goalpost right in the middle of the game. What, in your opinion, is the implication of this on the forthcoming election?
The question to ask is that, is it within the rights of the president to accent or to refuse to accent? If it is within his right to refuse to accent to that law, he has only exercised his rights within the law. The legislature also has its own rights. They have a right, if they're not satisfied with what the president has done, they have a right to override the president, so far as they can get the requisite numbers. And as far as I'm concerned, and this is my own personal view, I don't see why an electoral law will be amended 2 months to the elections. The elections are around the corner as far as I'm concerned. The legislature will be going on vacation by the 20th or the 21st of December to resume maybe 2nd week in January. And we're talking of an amendment of a law that is very key.
The argument of proponents of this bill
Yes.
is the fact that it wasn't, shown the president 2 months before the election. It was given to him like a year ago, and he kept sending it back.
Because?
Citing, errors, citing draft errors.
Why would
some other
why would
issues.
there be an error in legislation? I'll presume that the National Assembly has a legal department. And whoever is responsible for those errors should be held to it.
The good thing here is that INEC is saying it will deliver clean election without the new electoral bill. But let's quickly take a look at what they've worked on. They've talked about enhanced smart card reader, both the hardware and software. So there are larger, fingerprint aperture on that particular device, better fingerprint matching algorithm, more secure platforms to capture fingerprints after 4 field attempts, and it goes on and on like that. But all of these, I believe, were affected during the Ekiti and Osun election. Would you say there was indeed an improvement in the performance of the card readers?
As far as I'm concerned, the extant law that we have, the electoral law that we have, it was widely acknowledged that the 2015 election was free and fair. It was conducted by an incumbent, and the incumbent lost, and the incumbent was magnanimous enough to accept defeat.
I'm making reference to the staggered election that
Now,
was held
for this
like a year
particular
ago.
law, I would want to wonder why there's so much agitation, why there's so much desperation as to amend that law. One of the amendments is to the effect that election results should be transmitted immediately.
That's right.
Whether we like it or not, the ratio of IT penetration in Nigeria is still very low. In localities that you don't have internet connection, what happens? And you've gone ahead to prescribe punitive sanctions for electoral officers who refuse to transmit the results immediately. I mean, laws should not be made in vacuum. Laws should be premised on the realities, on the peculiarities of our local environment.
One of the biggest game changers for the 2015 election was the use of card readers.
Yes.
But then it failed in most cases.
Yes.
Even the incumbent president at that time the machine could not read his fingerprint. So what happens, the alternative is the incidence form. Now, there are people who say that this is where the rigging, occurs, because it's possible for you not to have been, accredited or registered to vote, and then you just take advantage of the manual form. So the proponents of this new bill are saying that let us go all the way for card readers.
So what's the guarantee? Sorry.
What I'm saying now is that if INEC has proven or have reported that indeed they have worked on the card readers, why is it a big deal?
We're told the same story by INEC when they first bought the card reader. If the card readers have failed in the first instance, what's the guarantee that it won't fail in the second instance? We're talking technology here. Technology can fail. And Nigeria, whether we like it or not, we don't have the requisite infrastructure to support all these novel technologies. And we're talking of power here. We're talking of IT penetration here. We have to do what is realistic. Even if you use card readers, database of voters can be hacked. It's very possible. So you don't have any system that is totally secured.
And the card readers can be jammed.
Absolutely.
Interested.
Absolutely.
All right, so INEC is saying that indeed they have worked on the incidence form, they've incorporated it into the registers, the voters' registers and all of that. But the challenge we had in the just concluded staggered elections we had earlier in the year was vote buying. So INEC innovated in Ekiti, was it Ekiti, in Osun, to restructure the polling booths, ensure that voters do not go into the booth with their phones. Just recently, INEC is saying that they have also reworked the ballot paper so that it is rolled in such a way that it's going to be very difficult to show someone else who you have voted for. Do you see all of these strategies really, solving this challenge ahead of the general election?
The truth of it is that INEC can only try. As long as there's poverty in the land, as long as there's hunger in the land, I'm sorry to say, and this is my personal view, and I'm saying this on the basis of experience, it will be very difficult to eliminate vote buying. Because you can't expect someone who doesn't know where his next meal is coming from. And on election day, somebody brings 5,000, 10,000 naira that he can spend for 1 month, survive on for 1 month in certain areas in Nigeria, and you tell him not to collect that money.
Let's take this call very quickly from Sarah. Sarah is calling us from Magodo in Lagos. Good morning, Sarah. Sarah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Okay, so I want to find out, I want to make inquiries about your view, the TV program.
Not on this show. You might just have to get the inquiry line. I'm sure that someone will get back to you on that. Thank you for calling, Sarah. Okay, so we're looking at a situation where you're saying that vote buying is going to be very hard to curb because the voter who doesn't have money and all of that. But it puts us in a very difficult situation. If a voter cannot tell where his or her next meal is coming from, and then he or she chooses to sell his or her votes, then what he's done is condemned him or herself to perhaps another 4 years of a worse economic situation.
The truth is that you can't sermonize to a hungry man. You can only listen to a sermon, or you can only internalize a message if your stomach is full. But if you're hungry, no matter what INEC says, you won't listen. We're talking about putting food on the table. If you don't want people to be swayed by vote buying, then it behoves on the government to ensure that every Nigerian, not just some Nigerians, every Nigerian is guaranteed, no, it might not be 3 square meals, at least 2 square meals a day. You can come out with the best of laws, with the best of procedures on vote buying. You tell people don't take your phones to the polling booths. You have designed the ballot in a particular manner. A hungry man will go to any length to circumvent the process. And those are the issues we should be addressing.
It's all right.
Yes.
Let's bring in Joshua from Irewole in Ogun State. Good morning, Joshua.
Good morning, sir. How are you? I greet your guest.
Terrific. Please go ahead.
My greetings to Uncle Yemi. I do appreciate the contributions of your guest. I want to say concerning the electoral bill or the law, I think we should rely on the existing law because it is adequate. And I'm grateful that he is pointing out very seriously the issues of infrastructure, electricity, and all that. I think somebody pushing us to say just go to card reader and card reader alone. They are actually planting, I think, some kind of confusion. So we need to be careful. We need to be careful. So, and I'm glad you said the president has the assent or not, and he declined. So we should go ahead and do what is right. Concerning vote buying, I think it's just a hype. Our culture should shift from money, politics to value and, celebrating the lives of people. Let people understand that leadership is about choosing who is right for you. Until we get there, vote buying is a culture. Let's stop buying what cannot change. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution, Joshua. So we've had opposition candidates ask Mr. President to sign this bill, and it was the only way they can be sure that he is ready for a free and fair election. Already the way it is, it doesn't appear that the National Assembly can summon the two-thirds majority required to, override the president. Is the substantive law, enough? Is it competent to deliver a free and fair election next year?
As far as I'm concerned, it's very exhaustive. It is competent enough. It's been tried before. It has worked. I don't see, like I said, I don't see why there's so much noise about this new law.
Judge is on the line. He's calling in from Ikeja. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, and good morning to your guest, sir.
Good morning.
I have never seen a match is going on, and while the match is going on, you are changing the rules of the game. That's what the National Assembly was trying to do as regards the electoral law. I remember the president returned it the first time. It took the National Assembly 8 months to represent it. So the president wasn't the one that was actually delaying. But then, now that election has been fixed, campaigns have started, we are changing the rules. Confusion, there will be confusion, there will be chaos. So the best thing is to make do with what is existing. Luckily, INEC says they are able to use the existing law effectively. So that should just solve that problem. I'm concerned with the debate aspect.
Go ahead, Judge. I think we lost that call. Let's move on very quickly. Just last week, 71 members of the House of Representatives called for, Nigeria going back to the parliamentary system of government. Is this to the 2019 general election?
Well, the truth is that Nigeria has a constitution. Whatever is being proposed by anybody has to be done within the confines of the constitution. If they're able to summon the required numbers, if they're able to satisfy the constitutional requirements for amendment of the constitution, then the will of the people will prevail. They're representatives of the people. But it's now left to them to be able to galvanize, to ensure that the requisite numbers are obtained and gathered to be able to amend the constitution. What I'm of the view, so to speak, is that our problem is not necessarily based on one system of government or the other. Our problem is simply attitudinal. The constitution might be amended for us to go back to parliamentary the parliamentary system of government. But if we have the wrong attitude, the wrong approach to some of those things, it simply won't work.
Let's take Divine's call from Apapa. Good morning, Divine.
Yeah, good morning, Femi, and good morning to your guests in the studio. Yes, I want to contribute in the issue of elections coming up 2019. Let us be frank to ourselves. You see, the time that the president returned the bill to the National Assembly, I will quite agree that it was a prepared issue, in the sense that they knew that they would not sign that bill and they bring it at the time minute. You see, I am not of opinion that trying to say you must sign the bill or you must sign the bill. The issue of him coming up telling us that he's ready to give a free and fair election, I want to disagree with that. Number one, anybody who is not obeying the rule of law cannot give us any credible and fair and fair election. So that is my own point in that issue. So I want to just quite disagree that we are not going to witness free and fair election come 2019, because he was a victim, and if
I think we lost that call. Quite a pessimistic point of view there as regards to forthcoming election. Let's wrap this parliamentary gist. Okay. From 1952 to 1966, we've had a total of 5 parliaments. There's a federal parliament, a regional parliament of each of our 4 regions. Of course, we have the East, Northwest, and Midwest regions. And the argument for proponents of this is that the presidential system is just too expensive and it gives too much power to the president and the governors and all of that. But then you also recall that it was in 1966 thereabout that the military juntas came, saying that there was too much ethnic division under the parliamentary system. In your opinion, which is better for Nigeria?
As far as I'm concerned, the presidential system of government might be quite expensive because you have the House of Senate, you have, it can be improved upon within the confines of the law. When we had the parliamentary system, the mainstay of governance in terms of revenue for all the regions was agriculture. Within the presidential system of government, right now our mainstay is oil and gas. But there's nothing in the law which stops any state from tapping into its agricultural potentials. Very few states have bothered to do that. Very few states have bothered to do that. When we had the parliamentary system of government, all the crises, all the issues, the prime minister at the national level still had tremendous powers. And that was why when you had the issues between Tafawa Balewa, the Akintolas, and the Awolowos, the Prime Minister still came out to wield executive powers.
That's right.
The issue, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sorry to say this, is not so much of whether we have parliamentary or presidential or whatever. The issue is that what will work for us.
But do you agree that we need devolution of power? That the center, in this case, is too
Absolutely, we need devolution.
Let's take this call from the United Kingdom, where I believe that the Prime Minister is only first amongst equal. Good morning, Bola. Bola, are you there? Hello?
Good morning. How are you?
Terrific. Please go ahead with your contribution.
I am here. Hello?
Go ahead. I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I think there's a delay. Just go ahead.
Good morning to my colleague there as well.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello?
I can hear you very clearly, Bola. I need you to go ahead with the contribution. I think we lost that. Okay, so when you call in and just go ahead with the contribution. Let's talk about insecurity and elections in Nigeria. Just about 3 or 4 days ago, the U.S. expressed fear of violence, during the 2019 election. But it's been more or less like, a recurring decima. In 2015, you recall that the election in that year was postponed because of the Yaya bombing. That was when we had the Chibok girls' abduction. In 2011, the election year wasn't an exception either. The pre-election year was turbulent for the country. There was a resurgence of violence in most parts, especially the volatile parts of the country, Niger Delta in the south, Jos in the middle, Belt and Borno in far north. Now, recall that it was 2010, the pre-election year, that we had the Nigerian Independence Day attacks. And in December of that same year, there was a bomb attack on the barracks in the outskirts of Abuja. Now, it's 2018, another pre-election year. And there's already another resurgence in, of course, insurgency in the north. There is kidnapping in the south. There is, earlier in the year, we had the herdsmen, farmers. Is there something about pre-election year violence?
Well, the thing is that, in politics in Nigeria, the stakes seem to be very high. And towards the election year, the players, the proponents of politics, the stakeholders in politics tend to become more agitated. And in certain quarters, they tend to be more mischievous, really. But the good thing is that we've always been availed of these predictions time and time over. A few years back, we had been told by the US that Nigeria was going to break up. They gave us a particular year. The year came, it passed. Nigeria did not break up.
And we still stand.
And we still stand. And Nigerians were very resilient. We've been through a lot. The issues will come, the challenges will come, but we'll continue to overcome one way or the other.
You think we're resilient enough to overcome it?
We will. We had June 12. We overcame. We had Abacha. We had IBB. At every point in time, we surmounted those challenges. When President Goodluck Jonathan was there, the predictions were also made. We surmounted those challenges. Now we also have similar predictions, and I'm sure that by the grace of God, we'll also surmount those challenges.
Comrade Ayo is calling us from the Osun State capital. Good morning, comrade.
Hello, good morning to you there.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, you see, one thing that I want us to believe is whether we use card reader or not, if we want the election to be free and fair, it depends on the players and the quality. See, the most freest and fairest election in Nigeria, as far as we are concerned now, is that of the election of MK Abiola. And no, technology was not used then. We don't even have phone, not to talk of computer. See, the players in the field of politics has to play by the rules. And the president, I believe the president have said this election will be free and fair. My fear is even about the opposition. I believe they are planning something. I want to believe they are planning something that we don't know about. The president has promised us that this election will be free and fair. And the opposition, I want to believe maybe they are afraid that they are going to lose this election, so they are trying to do all sorts of things to say, to discredit the process. And we're not going to accept that from them. Nigerians won't accept that from them.
It's all right, Comrade Ayo. I think you made your point. I'm sorry, that's how much time I can take. That's the last call for this segment. My final question for you. Okay. It was former President Goodluck Jonathan in his book, My Transition Hours, who, quoted, I'm not quoting really, but he insinuated that elections in Nigeria is divided along tribal and religious sentiment. It's either we're looking at the candidate from the north or the south, or is he a Christian or Muslim. But in 2019, the two main candidates seem to both come from the north. They're both Muslims. They are both septuagenarians. They worked together in 2015. Do you think that issues will matter now for a first time or in a long time?
For the upcoming elections, what will define the elections? It will be based on issues of performance. It will be based on concrete issues. What has incumbent been able to achieve? What is the character of each and every of the candidates? To what extent are people ready to believe in the capacity and in the competence of each and every candidate? And I'm sorry I disagree with what President Goodluck Jonathan said in his book. During June 12th, MK Abiola, people voted across ethnic lines.
Maybe he was referring to recent election, especially the one he participated in.
For him, maybe that might have been the case, really. But let's not divide this country. And particularly for us as leaders, we need to be careful of our utterances. What Nigerians desire right now is good governance. Nigerians do not care. They do not bother to know whether their president is from Cameroon or anywhere. What they want is a president that can deliver on certain mandates.
It's all right.
Absolutely.
We have to go now. Lawyer and political affairs analyst Ahmed Akombe, thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you very
and
much.
sharing your thoughts on this issue.
Thank you very much.
I hope